Hello my dear friends, I know it has been a while since my last video, but I'm here again. Welcome back to the Wonderland, where together we create medieval magic. Today I'll be creating two types of mini medieval leather pouches, made to carry the tiny medieval maps and scrolls that I've created in previous videos. Both these styles were used in ancient times to store and protect valuable maps and scrolls. One is a belt pouch designed to be carried on the hip, while the long strap pouch is designed to be slung over or across the shoulder. Each pouch is designed to carry one mini scroll or two mini maps. The 2-page printable provides instructions for both pouch styles. These cutting patterns or templates are designed to simplify the sizing and cutting of the leather pieces. The printable also offers 4 designs of medieval crosses that can be used to decorate the finished pouches. Each part of the template is referenced with a name and number, as well as the materials being used. Each cutting pattern has 9 numbered pieces, making the order easy to follow. Steps 1 to 6 are the same for both pouches, with the differences only occurring in steps 7 through 9, namely the 2 different styles of straps and clasps. You can find the tools, supplies and printables link in the description below the video. I used 65-pound black cardstock, which will provide the sturdiness that we need for the pouch cap and lid. Start by cutting out the section containing part A, B and C at the bottom of the first page. Stick it down on the cardstock with paper glue. I use this as a stencil to cut the 3 shapes out. These little cutouts will later be covered with leatherette. Part C that I'm cutting out here is the clasp for the belt pouch and is only relevant to pattern 1. Only the belt pouch clasp needs to be reinforced with cardstock, whereas the shoulder pouch clasp does not. Using faux leather for miniatures can be tricky, as the grain can look too big and not to scale. Always choose one with a fine grain. Most leatherette is also too thick, so removing the white cotton backing makes it thinner and of better scale. Begin by pulling on a corner and continue to tug gently with your fingers. This backing will fight you all the way, but it does eventually give way without damaging the front. You'll need a piece big enough to lay the pattern on. We'll start with the belt pouch, which is cutting pattern 1. As I mentioned earlier, steps 1 to 6 are the same for both styles, so up until step 7 you'll be seeing glimpses of both pouches. For easier identification, I've used 2 different colors for the pouches. The belt pouch is brown and the shoulder pouch is black. Use some tacky adhesive to lightly attach the template to the leatherette. It doesn't matter which side of the leather you attach it to when cutting out, as long as the right side of the leather faces upwards during assembly. Some people prefer to use a craft knife for cutting the shapes out, whereas I always prefer a pair of scissors. All the shapes will look similar once you've cut them out, so make sure that you keep the correct shape with its corresponding number. The easiest way is to cut out the piece and then attach its number with the putty straight away. You can then put all the cutouts to one side until you need them, without the fear of mixing them up. Rather cut outside the white line to prevent cutting the pieces too small. You can trim them later during assembly. To create the body of the mini pouch, cut a piece of drinking straw that measures just under 1 1/4 inch in length, or 31 millimeters. Make sure it's level on both sides, as it helps when we attach the pouch lid and bottom. I played around with other sizes, but I found that the most realistic size for these pouches was an 8mm diameter drinking straw. Although the straw color won't be visible when we attach leatherette to the outside, we don't want to peer inside our medieval pouch and see the color. Paint the straw with undiluted brown acrylic paint so that it looks like leather throughout. Piece number 1 will be wrapped around the straw and will make up the main body of the pouch. I've allowed extra millimeters on the length and breadth of all pieces so as to facilitate better handling and accurate measuring before the final cut. This will give you opportunity to get the perfect fit. With the right side of the leather facing up, roll it around the straw. The goal is to have the two ends of the leather touching each other in a straight line when it's glued down. They must not have a gap between them or overlap. Keep measuring and trimming the leather until it hugs the straw with the two ends meeting nicely. The size of piece 1 will also depend on how thin or pliable your leatherette is. Once you're satisfied that piece 1 fits snugly around the straw, you'll need to adjust its length. The leather must be 2 mm shorter than the straw when its top edge is aligned with the top of the straw. This is where the pouch bottom will be added. Use craft glue to glue them together. Make sure that the top of the straw and leather are perfectly aligned and that the straw protrudes at the bottom. You can see here that the leather fits snugly around the straw and that there is no gap between the two ends. The glue will disappear as it dries and the join will be almost invisible. Next, we'll be attaching the bottom of the pouch. Piece number 2 will create the bottom of our pouch, and the best way to attach it efficiently will be to make small V-shaped cuts into it. Using some ink for visibility, mark the pouch outline onto the back of piece 2. If we tried to fold the small circle of leather over the bottom of the pouch as it is, it would overlap or scrunch and would look horrible. To overcome this, we need to minimize the excess leather when folding it, hence the cuts. Cut 6 tiny V's evenly around the circle of leather. The cuts are about 1/10 of an inch or 2.5 millimeters wide. These are tiny cuts, so use only the tips of your scissors and don't cut beyond the ink circle in the middle. Make sure you attach it to the side of the straw that protrudes past the leather. Apply craft glue to the back of the leather and try to remember to be patient during the next step. Bend it over the bottom of the pouch to shape it. At this point, it seems unbelievable that it will ever stick. Keep pressing and holding the leather in that position, giving the glue time to dry. If patience is hard to come by, consider using these soft elastic hair ties to hold the leather down. Remove the elastic once the glue has dried. At this stage, don't be too critical about how neat the bottom looks, as we'll be attaching a support piece over it. Once the glue has cured, we'll be attaching piece number 3 as a support around the bottom to hold it securely. This will also hide any untidiness. Ensure that the join of this piece aligns with the other join at the back of the pouch. Once again, you'll have to keep measuring and trimming piece 3 for length and width. It must be approximately 6 mm wide so as to cover the bottom piece and extend a further 2 mm past it. Measure and trim so that once they are glued down, the two ends will join together without a gap. Apply craft glue on the back of piece 3 as well as on the ends that will be touching. Start by lining it up along the corresponding join at the back of the pouch and continue around until the two ends join without a gap. Now we need part B, which we cut out and attached to the cardstock earlier. It will be covered with leather piece number 4 to make the pouch cap. Trim the leather to align with the sides of the cardstock. There should be a 3 mm edge of protruding leather, which will be folded over the cardstock on one side. Add glue to the back of the leather and align the cardstock on one side. Fold the leather along the edge and press it down. Folding the leather over the top edge of the cap gives the pouch a much neater finish. As we know, detail matters in miniature making because we work with fine millimeters. Try to keep that inside edge straight, as it will be the stopping point of the cap. Before we create the pouch cap, we prepare the cap lid, which is piece number 5. Find part A, which we cut out and reinforced with cardstock earlier. Add glue and attach the leather circle that's labelled piece 5. This cap lid will later be adjusted for size. Use a pencil to gently roll and form the pouch cap. As I mentioned earlier, the folded edge marks the top of the cap and serves as a break for the body of the pouch. Measure carefully and repeatedly before you trim the diameter of the cap, ensuring a snug fit on the pouch. Bend the edges inwards to prepare for gluing. I first use craft glue to create a soft bond that I can test and manipulate before I use permanent super glue. When you're happy with the diameter, apply super glue to create a hard join. Don't worry about the messy glue marks, as we'll touch them up with paint later. The lid must fit snugly inside the cap, so measure repeatedly for size and trim accordingly. Hold the pouch cap face down. Drop the lid into the cap with its leather side facing down. This will tuck the edge inwards and give a neat look. Manipulate the lid with tweezers or a ballpoint stylus until it sits about 1 mm away from the top edge of the cap and positioned above the folded break line inside the cap. Make sure it's in the final position before applying super glue. This hardens the lid in place and makes the pouch cap nice and sturdy. The cap should now fit snugly over the body of the pouch and should be able to easily open and close. The cap will be joined to the body of the pouch by piece number 6, which is the lid hinge. The hinge must be glued over the joins at the back of both the pouch and cap. Once again, measure and trim to give the best fit. Leave enough slack in the hinge to be able to remove the cap easily. Have the cap in the closed position before you attach either of the ends. First, glue one end onto the body, close to the bottom of the fitted cap. For aesthetic value, please ensure that the joins at the back of the pouch and cap align before you attach the hinge to the cap. Attach the other end about halfway down the back of the cap. It should look like a little inchworm has attached itself to the back of your pouch. We need part C, which we cut out earlier and reinforced with cardstock. We are now assembling the clasp of the belt pouch, which differs from the clasp of the shoulder pouch. That clasp will be assembled later under cutting pattern 2. Add craft glue and attach the leather of piece number 7 to the cardstock. The clasp of the belt pouch needs reinforcement with cardstock, as it must be sturdy enough to pass through the leather loop when opening or closing the pouch. Roll the clasp over a pencil to give it a slight curve, which makes for a better fit on the pouch. It fits on the front directly across from the hinge at the back. Test the length of the clasp before gluing it on or adjusting the length. When the pouch is closed, the clasp should rest about 1 millimeter above the support strip at the bottom and not touch it. Make sure it's positioned directly opposite the hinge at the back before gluing it onto the cap. Place a pencil inside the cap to provide resistance as you press down. Curving the shaft slightly will help it to pass through the leather loop easier. Piece number 8 is the little leather loop that constitutes the female part of the clasp. It will be positioned about 2/3 down the shaft of the clasp. Trim to scale. Once again, make sure you test the functionality before you adjust the size or glue it down, ensuring that there's enough height for the shaft to go in and out. Once again, if it looks like a tiny inchworm clinging to the side of the pouch, it means you've done it right. The final step to this cutting pattern is the pouch strap, or piece number 9. The strap must be folded in half and attached to the side of the pouch, halfway between the hinge at the back and the clasp in the front. The side of the strap placement depends on which direction you want your pouch to face as it sits on the hip, opening either to the front or to the back. Trim and adjust the length of the strap if necessary. Firstly, fold it over and glue the two ends together. Then, with the pouch cap in the closed position, glue the strap onto the pouch, with the anchor point just beneath the cap. Place a pencil inside the pouch to provide resistance as you press down. And here we have a fully functional miniature belt pouch, perfect for carrying miniature maps and scrolls, just like in centuries past. The pouch components look realistic and true to scale. At the end of this video, I'll be attaching brass studs to the strap and clasp contact points in order to finish off this small leather beauty. In medieval times, everything was held together with metal studs, so we'll make this little pouch look completely authentic. We've arrived at cutting pattern number 2, which is the shoulder pouch. This style incorporates a different type of clasp and strap to that of the belt pouch. For those who only want to create the shoulder pouch and may have only started watching at this point in the video, please note that you also need to view steps 1 to 6 from the start, as I'm not covering them here again. The differences between the two styles of pouch occur only in steps 7 through 9, namely the strap and clasp. For the next 30 or so seconds, I'm providing the viewer with a fast-forward refresher view for cutting pattern 2, until we arrive at step 7 for the shoulder pouch clasp. For the shoulder pouch, you'll only need to cut out part A and B from cardstock, but not part C. This clasp does not need to be reinforced as in the case of the belt clasp. As always, remember to keep an eye on the detail when you apply glue, align pieces or measure size. They all play a role in producing a final product that is delicate and realistic. Cut 2 leather strips using white piece number 7 of the template. Since filming this section, I've adjusted my printable to show 2 white strips instead of 1. Stick these 2 leather pieces together using craft glue. The clasp is attached to the front of the pouch directly across from the hinge at the back. With the pouch closed, the clasp should rest 2 mm above the support strip at the bottom and not touch it. When the size is finalized, cut a snip into the middle of one side. This is to orientate and shape the point. Make sure it's positioned directly opposite the hinge at the back before gluing it onto the cap. This clasp will incorporate a brass nail and an eyelet, so it needs to be thick yet pliable. For this clasp, we need the peg to sit about 2/3 down the shaft of the leather strip. I use tiny brass nails to create the metal detail that is so typical of medieval times. I'm using a flathead nail to create the metal peg. For this style of clasp, we need to bend the nail head to a 90-degree angle. Grasp the nail shank tightly with a pair of mini pliers and use a pair of long-nosed pliers to bend the head to a right angle. Try to make the bend tight and as close to the nail head as possible, otherwise it will stand out too far from the body of the pouch. Decide where the nail head must sit when the pouch cap is closed, then mark it on the body of the pouch with a spot of color. The nail shank must be inserted flat between the leather and the straw. Do not push it through the straw, otherwise you won't be able to insert your mini scrolls. When inserted, the nail shank must face upwards in the direction of the pouch cap. This keeps it under tension when the leather clasp is closed. I first do a trial run and then add super glue when I'm happy with the positioning. The nail head must protrude slightly from the body to allow the leather clasp to work well. Mark the position of the hole on the leather strap. Remove the cap and fold the strap over to make the cut. Adjust the size of the hole so that the clasp functions well. It should open and close easily with just enough tension to keep the pouch closed. The 2 small straps labeled piece 8 will facilitate the attachment of the long shoulder strap to the pouch. They will later be looped through metal hinges which will give a realistic movement to the carry strap. The final step to this cutting pattern is the carry strap, or piece number 9. For correct scale, the total length of the shoulder strap should be 13.5 to 14 centimeters, allowing about 7 millimeters on each end for folding over. It will be attached to the sides of the pouch by metal links. I find that metal chain links of 2 millimeters by 3 millimeters are most suitable to scale. If you cannot find them, however, you can easily create your own metal links from 22 gauge black craft wire. Cut 2 pieces, each measuring 11 millimeters to 12 millimeters long. Use a pair of mini long-nosed pliers to roll the wire into an oval shape. These don't have to be perfectly formed, but make sure their ends meet securely so that the leather straps won't slip out. I needed the help of my ballpoint stylus to form an acceptably round shape. If necessary, trim the width of the attachment straps, that is piece number 8. Loop them through each of the metal links and fold them in half. Trim the folded length to about 7 millimeters. Glue the bottom ends together, making sure that the metal links still move freely. These 2 pieces will be positioned on each side of the pouch, halfway between the hinge at the back and the clasp in the front. With the cap closed, glue the straps onto the body of the pouch with the anchor points just underneath the cap and the metal links facing upwards. Make sure that these 2 components are placed directly across from each other so that the pouch hangs evenly from the strap. With the back of the leather face up, thread the long strap through the metal loop. Add glue and fold the end over approximately 7 millimeters, allowing the link free movement. Then, ensuring that the strap does not become twisted, do the same to the other side. Both pouches are now assembled. We have 2 beautiful and functional miniature pouches, both realistically medieval and true to scale. Next, we'll be adding brass studs to our pouches, as most things were bolted with metal studs in medieval times. I use tiny brass nail heads to create realistic metal detail. I remove the studs from the shank with an end cutter. Try to cut the heads off as cleanly as possible so that they can lie flat. I add a brass stud at every point where the leather strips join. Before I glue a nail head down, I make an indentation for it to fit snugly. I use super glue for fast adhesion. Small pinhead nails look most realistic for this step. The hinges, clasps and straps must all get some of the metal bling. And don't forget the inside of the strap foldovers. Dilute brown or black acrylic paint with a drop of water and lightly brush over any parts that may have become a little scratched or faded during assembly. If you want a more weathered look, you can play with shadows and also age the brass studs with a little brown paint. Remember to paint inside the pouch cap too. Finally, if you want to further decorate your pouch, you can choose to cut out any of the 4 medieval cross designs on the front page of the printable. Use a flat paintbrush to age the white paper edges with brown paint. Any combination of the strips can be paired with a brown or black pouch. They can be glued to the bottom of the pouch to provide yet more medieval charm. Our miniature belt and shoulder pouches are now complete. Both look amazing, and I for one couldn't choose one over the other. They look authentically medieval, and they comfortably carry the medieval maps and scrolls that I have created in previous videos. It's a pleasure to create these videos for you, and I hope I provide enough detail in them for you to enjoy creating your own miniatures. Thank you for watching this tutorial. If you want to see more, I'd be grateful if you subscribed and hit the notification button. Until the next time, bye.